Hello everyone and welcome to the exciting world of generative AI. In this series of the video, we'll be exploring the fascinating world of generative AI and its groundbreaking application. The generative AI has transformed the way we interact with machines, enabling computers to create, predict, and learn without explicit human instructions. With ChatGPT and OpenAI, we have witnessed unprecedented advance in natural language processing, image and video synthesis, and many other fields. So whether you are a curious beginner or an experienced practitioner, this video will equip you with the knowledge and skill to navigate the exciting landscape of generative AI. So let's dive in and start with some definitions of the context we are moving in. So what is generative AI? Generative AI is a subfield of artificial intelligence and deep learning that focuses on generating new content. And what are these contents? These are images, text, music, videos, and much more. So let's look at it a little bit more in detail about generative AI and so on. So it is better to understand the relationship between the AI, machine learning, and deep learning, and also the generative AI as such. Okay, so you got to consider the generative AI as a subset of all these information. So first thing first, let's look at the artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence represents the broad field of creating systems that can perform tasks, showing human intelligence and ability, and being able to interact with the ecosystem. Followed by that, we have machine learning. These are a set of algorithms, or what we call the branch that focuses on creating spatial programs called algorithm and models that enables those systems to learn and improve themselves with time and lots of data, and what we call training. Machine learning or ML models learn from existing data and automatically update their parameters as they grow. Okay. Followed by that, we have a deep learning, which is a subset of machine learning. The deep learning is a sub-branch of machine learning, and it's the sense that it encompasses deep learning models. These deep learning models are called neural networks and are particularly suitable in domains such as, like, say, computer vision or natural processing or more. Followed by that, this is where the generative AI comes in. So we get the generative AI, a further sub-branch of deep learning, which uses these neural networks to produce and generate brand new content, from images to natural language, from music, and much more. So you got to understand that where the generative AI comes in place. So it's pretty much the subset of a deep learning, which uses the neural network to generate content. So what are some of the content that the generative AI does it, or what we call the domains of generative AI? These are the various types, for example, text generation. And one of the greatest applications of generative AI, and the one we are going to be covering a lot more, is the text generation. So a language model, for example, such as GPT-3, which is developed by OpenAI, and we're going to be discussing this far more detail, can be trained on a large amount of text data and then used to generate new and grammatically correct text in different languages and much more. So I've given you an example over here. So I went to the ChatGPT and I asked a very simple question. Say, okay, explain to a 5-year-old person what is the AI with example. And the moment I hit in, it goes back to its own vast amount of data, or world brain, and it produced the following results. And behind the scene, everything is generative AI, i.e., it's using the deep learning neural networks and producing the results are all together over here. So this is the first variation of generative AI, generative artificial intelligence, which is creating the text generation. Now, the fun doesn't stop over here. Disclaimer over here. This person does not exist. Yes. This is a random face generator, i.e., this person does not exist. This is an image which is generated by a generative AI. And you can always look at this URL, this person does not exist /en. You can play around with some parameters over here. But the key thing to mention over here is that this image is not a real person, but this image has been developed or produced by generative AI, i.e., it uses millions and millions of information and images and the models, a neural network that's there, and it uses all this information and giving your parameters to produce this image over here. All right, exciting, right? So you can create image generation using the generative AI. Okay. Now, there are far more advancement done in terms of image generation as well. And one of the product of OpenAI, which we'll discuss far more detail, is called DALL-E. The right now version is DALL-E 2. And what DALL-E does is basically you can simply give a prompt or your definition of your image, and it produces the information right away as well. So I've given a simple question, let's say a picture of Socrates riding a spaceship. And what it does basically is write and create the Socrates and a spaceship over here. So all this has been generated by means of your information that you're passing on to your model over here or generative AI. Behind the scene, as I say, everything is run through generative AI, which uses vast amount of information and produce this image right away for us. Exciting, correct? Now, the fun doesn't stop over here. With the generative AI, you can create music, you can create videos. And what I foresee is that there are various other variations or form of content will be produced using the generative AI. Now, this was important for us to understand some of the language, some of the basic concept that we need to understand in order to proceed further. So in the next video, we'll be exploring far more on ChatGPT, the GPT models, and more. So whatever you see over here so far, the text generation, image generation, or so, you will be able to do all this and much more. So I'm so excited to see you in our